Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, hello there. And good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I am Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. Let them know what they're in for, my friend.
Oh, we've got a really busy week. We are going to go through our headlines from over the weekend, some Hall of Famers, some more NFL players as they are dropping like flies. The Madden 99 Club was released, and we're going to start off this week as breaking down each division, each team, our predictions of the season, and then we'll get into fantasy probably next week as a lot of the leagues are getting set up. So we'll start with the AFC and NFC West. Plus, we have comedian Leanne Morgan, who will be in town Saturday, August 2nd at the Dignity Health Theater. And she will be calling in today at 8:30. So if you have any text or questions you want to ask her, feel free to text in before 8:30 at 661-842-2000.
We got to talk a lot of things with Leanne. She's got a Netflix special. She's got a Netflix series coming out, a sitcom called Leanne. It starts this Thursday. I would highly check it out if you are a comedy fan. She's hilarious. She's fantastic. I'm very excited to talk to her. And if you're a fan of Leanne at all, there are tickets still available. You can go on to AXS.com right now. Just type in Leanne Morgan. They'll be right there for you for the Dignity Health Theater. Bakersfield, we are, how do I put this lightly? For those of you who are not here in Bakersfield and watching us on YouTube, we are a very last-second show prep kind of place. If you're looking for high pre-sale numbers, Bakersfield's not the place for you. We will go to your show. Do not get me wrong. We will definitely go. But this is a community that usually likes to wait to the last second because we don't know what we're doing on that day. Plans could change. Why buy the tickets if we're not going to use them, kind of a thing. So it is what it is. But highly recommend you go buy tickets to Leanne's show again this Saturday, August 2nd at Dignity Health. But we got to talk a lot of things sports. There was a whole bunch going on over the weekend. There's stuff in NASCAR, stuff in the NFL. But let's start with baseball because the Hall of Fame was over the weekend. We got to highlight some of those. 5 key names went in. Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia being the most notable modern name you will hear. But obviously, you got to talk about Billy Wagner, David Parker, and Dick Allen, all 5 going in. For those of you who don't know who these people are that I'm just naming, some of the best in baseball, Billy Wagner was a 25-year vet at the pitching position, 800-plus relief shows, and 2.31 ERA. That's pretty impressive for over, I believe, 5 teams. I think he played for the Astros. I know he played for the Phillies for a while, the Mets, the Red Sox. I mean, he was a pretty studly relief pitcher for a long, long time. Dave Parker, right fielder. I mean, 7-time All-Star, 2-time NL batting champion and MVP. The guy, obviously, he was going to get put in eventually, along with a lot of other names, including Dick Allen, first baseman for Philly, probably one of the biggest names back in the 60s. Personally, I find this to be a little bit of just, I can't believe it took this long to put him in here. This is kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. Dick, very much well-deserved Dick Allen going in as well. But the 2 names we got to talk about, because one of them obviously is one of the biggest names to play for Sparky's new team. But who were you more excited to see go in, my friend, Ichiro or CC? Because I think both really deserved this.
They both deserved it, as well as Billy Wagner. But I was happy to see Ichiro and CC personally.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a lot of baseball over the weekend, and it was tough to watch. I will just say that.
Look at you catching the bug. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Sparky's getting into baseball, guys.
It was nice to see Ichiro, first Japanese-born and Asian-born position player to get in. And
he didn't even know the thing existed until he got over to the MLB. His speech was fantastic.
That's what I was going to say. His speech was awesome.
So lighthearted, so full of humor. The fact that he did it all in English. I mean, obviously, he can't exactly go up there and speak Japanese and expect everybody to be able to follow, but his humor was on point. Like, he made a lot of jokes. The subtle jab at the one writer who didn't put him in.
Yeah, I saw that. The one vote.
There's always one. There's always one guy. It's like, no,
393 out of 394 votes.
And if we're talking about a guy, and I'm going to say something here, it's probably going to get people all riled up. Okay, and I get it. But Ichiro Suzuki might be the greatest hitter baseball has ever seen. And I don't mean home run hitter.
Just a hitter.
Hitter.
Yeah.
Now, granted, when you look at his numbers in terms of MLB, he's only 25 on that list. I get it. 3,000 hits is still pretty good. But if you factor in that he came into the league at 27 years old, 27, lasted 19 years, and the years before that, he was playing in Japan and had well over 1,000 hits. If you add all of his hits as a professional baseball player together, he has more than Pete Rose, which is, oh, look at that, number one on the list. So arguably,
it was well deserved.
And not to throw this out there and be that guy, but pitchers have only gotten better. This is not an argument where you could say, well, back in the day, the game was different. Yeah, it was different. Yeah, it was very different. It's why we don't really give Babe Ruth that much credit anymore. As much as we love Babe, and Babe was the first ever to do what he did, Shohei is far more impressive and will be at the end of his career. So, and that's because of the competition he's gone up against. If you really look at the competition that Ichiro has gone up against in his entire career, the hits he's racked up, the consistency he's had, he has a career average of over 300. Ichiro might be one of the, if not the greatest hitter baseball has ever seen. He might be. And personally, in my opinion, he is. I put him over Pete. I really would. But again, I'm biased. I grew up during the
coming
Ichiro.
Out swinging.
I grew up during the Ichiro era. I'm sorry. Maybe that's just
I love the guy.
Recency bias. Maybe that's a thing.
I was going to say, I wouldn't put him at the top, but he's up there.
Over 4,000 career hits, Spark. Over 4,300. I mean, it's you really look at his body of work, and it's hard to. He has more hits if you put his entire career together than Yogi Berra and Joe DiMaggio put together.
But you can't.
I know you can't. Again, it's just like I was saying. But if we're gonna put all of these guys at the top of that list, your Ty Cobbs, your Pete Roses, and all that type of stuff, his name has to be in the same conversation. It has to be. If you leave Ichiro Suzuki out of that conversation, you are not paying attention the last 20 years. And honestly, it is what it is. But that's just my thought process.
I'm just glad he's in.
I am too. And going to CC Sabathia being the one that I know you're we're more excited to see go in. I agree with you. A guy who played like 19, 20 years in the league for two teams, was probably the most dominant left-handed pitcher in that era for a long time. One of four, I believe, pitchers that have reached 3,000 Ks that are left-handed. One of them being a lot of people who are listening right now's favorite pitcher, Clayton Kershaw. I ask you this question, though, my friend, because I was kind of looking at this last night. Of the four names of lefties that have reached 3,000 strikeouts, I'm going to read you all of their career stats. I want you to pick which one that you would take, like, their career. Okay? So CC Sabathia, we'll start with him. 251 wins, 161 losses. A 3.74 ERA, which honestly is pretty high. It's pretty high, but it's still respectable. 3,093 Ks in 3,577 innings. When you look at Kershaw's numbers, and these are tentative, obviously they're going to be going up and down depending on how he ends this year. 216 wins on 96 losses. A 2.52 ERA, 3,007 Ks plus. That number is going to change. And 2,802 innings pitched. That number is also going to change. This is on an 18-year career. Randy Johnson, 303 wins, 166 losses, a 3.29 ERA with 4,875 Ks on 4,135 innings pitched. Or Mr. Carlton from Philly, who went 329 wins, 244 losses, a 3.22 ERA, 4,136 Ks on 5,217 innings pitched. All of those incredibly, incredibly impressive careers. But personally, I'd probably take Clayton's.
See, I figured you'd say that.
I think Clayton Kershaw's is a little bit like outside of Randy's strikeout numbers.
I was gonna say
Are
I'd go
never
with
going to
Randy.
get touched.
I'd go with Randy, but
You're going to kill doves out in
it's just a
Arizona.
little biased. But I mean, Kershaw would be a close second, and Kershaw. I'm not a fan of Kershaw just more recently, but when he in his prime, I mean, there was no one better.
The only thing that hangs him up is the playoffs.
Mhm.
That's the only thing where I'm like, if I could take one thing away, it'd be his playoff.
And it'd be disrespectful to not go with CC, but I'd go Randy.
All of them are incredibly impressive. Obviously, lefties are hard to come by in pitching specifically, but I think I don't think you really go wrong with picking any of their careers,
Right.
when you look at it.
But
when I sit there and look at Clayton Kershaw, 216 wins on 96 losses, do you realize now, mind you, I hope this doesn't happen, but let's say Clayton doesn't win or lose another game in baseball. That means he hadn't had 100 losses as a pitcher. That's pretty impressive by itself. In 18 years, you didn't lose 100 games. Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive. So that's why I'm saying, like, that's what really drew me in, and the low ERA, obviously. But it's Clayton Kershaw, and if I could ever learn how to throw that curveball, my God. My God. But it's well-deserved all across the board, obviously, as we said. Big congratulations to Ichiro, CC, Billy the Kid, Wagner, Dave Parker, and Dick Allen. The highlight of the whole weekend, though, was still Ichiro's speech. That was so good. It was
sure the hell wasn't the
hilarious.
Mariners baseball.
No, but at this point, if you haven't watched the speech or watched the ceremony out there in Cooperstown, highly recommend you do. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. I know you could find highlights for sure on YouTube.
I know it's on ESPN. I saw the tail end of it, then I had to rewatch it just because. But yeah, it was a good weekend of baseball. I was tempted, but I didn't pull.
Yankees, baby.
Yeah, and a big shout out to the A's for just slapping around the Astros all weekend.
Which I gotta come out. I don't know if he's listening right now, but 49 Larry, I have to actually say I'm sorry too, because he called into the show on Kern Radio, our sister station. You know, did he
call it?
He called it.
Wow.
I swear, like he called in last week and told myself, and I believe it was Ralph at the time, because it was the Ralph Bailey show. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was the Ralph Bailey show at the time. And he pretty much said, it's like, the A's are gonna, well, he called the A's to win the whole shebang. Let's not get crazy. But he did say the A's were gonna win, and I looked at who they were playing this weekend and said, yeah, you guys haven't won 50 games yet. Good luck with that. Apparently the A's heard me and said, oh, really?
They're playing hot right now. And I was actually looking at tickets to go see the Mariners as they're on their last West Coast trip.
As well you should.
And
wait, what do you mean? They're on the West Coast.
$58. Yeah, but not that West Coast when you're coming from Bakersfield. But $58 to go to Sunday's game. And I was like, no, because then I'll be home late. And then I was looking at, okay, well, they got the A's next.
And honestly, I know
and that's in Sacramento, right? The Sacramento A's
at the moment, yes.
And they're $48 behind plate, behind home plate.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you.
I was going to say, I can get $50, so $100. Me and you can go sit behind home plate and watch the Mariners smash them.
And honestly, I would not be opposed to that whatsoever. I would.
But
gladly
it's a long drive and
I would drive Sacramento.
Quick turnaround.
Look, man, I've driven to Chico before. I don't care. I'll do it. It's not that big of a deal. But it's just, if that's the thing I was going to tell you before we go to break. And anybody who's listening to my voice right now, if you can't afford tickets at Angel Stadium or Dodger Stadium, fret not, because I would just look up if your team's playing the A's, because god dang are those tickets cheap. And at this point right now, it kind of makes sense because you're not getting a whole MLB stadium experience. This is
like How many chances do you get to sit behind home plate
I
for
know.
under $100?
I know, and that's what I'm saying. So, like, if you want to, I'm absolutely down to go do that. I always love a baseball game. I don't care if my team is playing or not. But it's yeah, if you are looking for a cheap baseball experience right now, look up the A's before they move to Vegas. Because the minute they move to Vegas, we're gonna see some
Put an extra couple zeros on that.
oh yeah, especially with the way that this stadium is gonna be built. Yeah, because you could really from again, and I keep highlighting this because it's the coolest thing in the world to me. But you mean I can go walk into a casino, walk to the back, and just see the Las Vegas A's play baseball and sit there and watch it without even buying a ticket? That is crazy to me. That's awesome. I cannot wait to see this. I don't care how high up I am. That's awesome. The fact that I can go to a bar, play a slot machine real quick, play a hand of blackjack, turn around, see it's the ninth inning. That's fantastic to me. That's a vacation in itself. So I'm ready. I am absolutely ready. Let's take a break, though. On the other side, we're going to get into a handful of other highlights, including Bubba Wallace being the first ever African American winner at Brickyard 400 over the weekend. This is the Early Bird Special right here on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. It's a Metal Monday. As Sparky tries to wake you up on this Monday. Another highlight we got to get to from over the weekend. I hit a little bit of a highlight before we went to break. A little bit of tease. Bubba Wallace won his first race since I believe 2022 was his last one, but it was a big one because it was at the Brickyard 400 in Indianapolis. And for those of you who don't know, he was the first ever African American racer to win the race. This is the unprecedented. Granted, there hasn't been a whole massive sample size, but this is still a pretty cool instance. And he did it in very, I don't want to say it was stressful, situations, but 2 overtimes, the threat of a potential, running out of gas at the end of this race
with Larson
on his tail, the guy who won it last year. Back-to-back restarts after wrecks at the end of this race. So all of this was really headed towards, oh, Lord, here goes. Larson's going to take it from him because Bubba's going to have to take a pit stop. Thinking. I mean, obviously, you have to watch. If you were watching the race, you saw that he had to make that decision very last second. And they asked him after the race, whose decision was it? Bubba said it was on me, and luckily it worked out. He said once he turned turn 4, he knew it was all going to work out, as long as his car didn't die out from no gas. But it was one of those situations where it's probably, stressful is the reason I don't want to use that word is because it seems too simple. Like, we all talk about this just thinking, okay, driving down the freeway going 60 miles an hour, if we run out of gas, we're, oh, well, this is 100 plus. These guys are right on your tail. And if you run out of gas, you're in trouble. And you go from first to last, right at the last leg. And instead of talking about being the first ever winner in Indianapolis, being an African-American, now you're a joke. Because everybody in the racing world is going to look at you and say, how did you know you weren't going to run out of gas, big dummy? The 31-year-old was absolutely just ecstatic with the win. Loved seeing him and his kid right there at the Brickyard at the end, just, enjoying it and falling with the confetti and stuff. It was a great family moment.
It was awesome.
It is incredible to me that this is the first ever in Indianapolis. I'm sure it's not going to be the last. No way in hell. But when you really look at it, it's the first of his. Well, in racing, there are 4 major races, much like everything else. There's the Brickyard 400, Daytona 500, Coca-Cola 600, and the Southern 500. This is the first one of the 4 that Bubba has been able to pull off. Do you think Bubba's going to be able to get a Grand Slam by the end of his career? 31 years old right now.
It'll be tough, but I think so. It'll be tough.
It's one of those sports that you have to have a very sharp mental, cognitive ability, obviously.
He could do it. And I probably has 5 or 6 years left in him.
I would assume, but that's a lot to ask for from a racer that has struggled to get a handful of wins here in the last couple of years. He had a very rough 2023 and 2024. Really,
I was going to say, and last year wasn't pretty.
Not to mention, I feel like he still has that negative bubble around him in the media. Unfortunately, for that snafu a couple years ago when it came to what appeared to be a noose in his garage, which wasn't the case at all. It was just kind of somebody using it as a pulley instead because the garage door wasn't working properly. It was a huge misunderstanding. But to be fair, in the situation, like if I were him, I'd probably freak out too. But realistically, like, I agree with you. I think that is, I think eventually he's going to get all 4 of these. And hopefully this is just the first in a long line of wins for him in the next couple months to years. But you got the Daytona 500, Coca-Cola 600, and the Southern 500 to win as well. It's a long run for those. So we'll see.
It'll be tough. I wish him the best, and I think he could pull it off. He still has many years left in his career.
Yeah.
And a lot of these racers, he might have 10 more years for all I know. So, it'll be an uphill battle, but congratulations. It was a hell of a win.
And I'm sorry. The other one that we need to mention too is his win at Talladega. Because that's the crown jewel one that he actually has right now. Because I totally forget. You got to actually mention Talladega with this too. Otherwise we're going to get absolutely
the movie,
the Talladega Nights.
But some other headlines over the weekend. We don't need to really get into the Marcus Morris arrest late last night. The Cowboys lost another guard out.
Broken bone in his neck.
Broken neck bone.
Did they ever say how that actually happened? Because again, those are the scary injuries, right? You don't want anything in the neck area to happen because that is long term more than likely going to be something that there's going to be some problems. If anybody's ever had back problems, you know that your entire body's on shutdown after that. So hopefully that is not something that hinders him for.
He was working with the starting team, so they're down to now their rookie Tyler Booker, who is now in step to start. I know we mentioned off the air the Niners defensive lineman Taron Jackson was lifted and taken to the hospital. Another big name injury. Joe Mixon was sidelined over the weekend with a foot injury, and that looks like it could go. It already coach already said that he will be missing the rest of offseason workouts. He'll miss the entire 3 weeks of preseason, and now he's questionable to start the week 1 of the season.
So fantasy fans, Nick Chubb is back.
Yes.
I mean, that's all I'm thinking about at this point. And well, hopefully he stays healthy as well. That's the only other thing that's going
we
to
are fantasy minded.
I'm sorry. That's just the first thing I'm thinking. Joe Mixon would honestly be a great running back for you as well if you're a fantasy football fan. However, I'm looking at this long term when it comes to the team itself. I mean, the Houston Texans were obviously leaning on Joe Mixon a lot last year. I think this is going to affect them in the beginning of the season, but I also think this is going to be one of those years for CJ Stroud where he comes out wanting to prove himself. So I think we'll see a lot of the pass game more than the run game from Houston this year, just to show off a little bit. Because when you really look at the AFC South, and we'll get to this when we run down our South rundowns here in the next couple of days too, but the South divisions on both sides are probably the weakest divisions in football. And if you're really looking at it, it should be a runaway year for the Houston Texans because we still don't know what we're getting from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with the other two teams, I'm not expecting a whole ton. I'm not expecting a ton from the Colts, and I'm not expecting anything from the Titans. So if you're CJ Stroud, that means that is 6 games right there. I know they're not all right at the beginning of the season, but the 6 games that you should be able to show out and show everybody exactly why you should be in that top 10 quarterback list that ESPN left you off of.
I mean, it has been mentioned that they might start him off with the IR, the short-term IR, which would force him 4 to 6 weeks of the season. But you have a veteran backup with Nick Chubb, and hopefully we can see the Nick Chubb of past. And another one was Kenny Pickett, which I thought he was going to take over the starting job, but I think he's now out of a job.
Yeah, honestly, that's the issue I'm seeing as well. Is I was thinking the same thing, that this could potentially be a Kenny Pickett fights for the starting job kind of a situation. But also, Kenny Pickett, in my opinion, has not really shown that he could be a great starting quarterback. I mean, he was meh in Pittsburgh. He had his moments of being solid,
pretty much his middle name. Yeah.
But it's just, I can't say that this is going to be a huge hit for the Cleveland Browns.
But do you think it makes it easier for Cleveland now?
Oh, 100%. That's what I was just about to say. I think that this, unfortunately, just is a fate way of saying you're strong arming them into 3 quarterbacks, because now Shador, Dylan, and Joe. And honestly, I think that's a respectable quarterback room, especially since you're most likely going to hand the reins off to one of these younger kids, and Shador or Dylan, whichever one you choose to go with. And Joe Flacco is a perfect quarterback to bridge into that. Kenny Pickett to me always felt like the odd man out in this situation because he wasn't exactly in a solid situation with Cleveland, because they obviously have 2 younger quarterbacks with higher potential and a higher ceiling. So I didn't expect them to really get behind Kenny that much, which means really no reason to keep him. You know,
I just thought he would have the better option over Flacco because of age. And that's why I figured he'll be a short-term starter in the beginning of the season. But now with the injury, but I think it makes it easier for Cleveland.
I agree with you, but that's kind of my point, though, right? Which quarterback would you rather have on the sideline with a rookie starter? Because eventually that's what we're looking at, is a rookie starter. And I don't think Kenny is that old or that well into his career yet to be considered a vet yet.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking for a vet, somebody that can help my guy on the sideline understand the game of football, I'm going with Joe Flacco. I'm going with the Super Bowl winner. So it always just seemed to me like Kenny Pickett was going to be out of a job eventually. But this, I have to agree with you, Spark. I feel like it just kind of strong-armed them into saying, all right, well, we're moving on. But again, that is not exactly what has happened. They haven't dropped him yet, obviously, or any of that situation. I just kind of feel like with this going down this way, it may not be a bright future for Kenny Pickett in Cleveland.
Well, we will take our break. We'll begin breaking down some of these divisions today. We'll start off with the AFC and NFC West, since we are in the West. We'll break down what we think we're going to see out of these teams, our predictions. Right after this break, feel free to text in anytime at 661-842-2000. We are the Early Bird Special.
The early bird special. We know you guys have been wanting us to do our top tens in terms of fantasy and stuff like that. We will get to that, but we know we got about a week or two before fantasy football really starts to kick up. We want to give a little bit of time, but since football is starting, because training camp has begun for everybody, we decided that we were going to do it in a little bit of a different way. We're going to go down each division and just give our thoughts on each division, plus who we think is just going to be the strongest teams to come out of each of them, which ones are the best divisions in our mind. And ultimately, if you really pay attention, and if you really pay attention, you'll figure out who our fantasy studs are going to be for this year. Because, I mean, that's going to come hand in hand. Obviously, the best teams and the best players are going to get you the most points. So we will start with the AFC West. Who you want to start with, Mr. Sparky? We're going to start with the Chiefs, obviously being the Chiefs,
Yeah.
and just the champion that they are. The dynasty continues, I suppose, but I feel like this might be a step back year for the Chiefs. And here's why. The offensive line obviously has its issues. They were able to sign Trey Smith, the right guard, for a considerable amount of time. You have Creed Humphrey still there, and Mike Caliendo is obviously a solid guy on the left side as well. Biggest questions, though, are your tackles. Can they hold up? Can they just keep Patrick Mahomes upright and keep him from having to scramble so much? You're talking about a team who was 15th in scoring the last 2 years, which is a huge drop off from being a top 6 team from the 5 years prior to that. And it is really weird to me that we're starting to see them as a defensive team. And when I say that, I mean, when you look at the defensive scoring that we've been just witnessing from their side of the ball, it's been night and day compared to what we saw 5 years ago. It really has been a complete shift for this squad. 5-6 years ago, we were talking about them being an offensive powerhouse that couldn't be stopped, but the defense was really the issue, right? We didn't know if the secondary was able to keep up. Although they had Tyrann Mathieu in the back, it wasn't exactly a for sure thing, and you could tear them apart if you had a good enough quarterback, essentially, as Joe Burrow had done. But when we're looking at them now, we're talking about a team that was number 2 and number 4 in ranked defensive scoring in the last 2 years. When Chris Jones is on the field, they can't do wrong. And although true, they don't have Honey Badger in the back anymore, and their secondary is now really just Trent McDuffie, it really hasn't taken a step back. In fact, they've gotten better and more cohesive. And honestly, they just keep adding pieces like Nick Bolton and Tranquil and all these other guys who have come in and just been absolute
both
studs.
Exactly. And I will second that. I don't think, coming off of last year with 15-2, which a lot of those games were nail biters at the end of the games. I think Kansas City takes a step back, and that division's only getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna roll with them to win the division again. I think it'll be a much tighter division with a win-loss record.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the looking at teams that you'll get into, but Denver's getting better. Vegas has a whole new face to their team, and the Chargers are only getting better. But I still gonna go with the vet-minded. Mahomes has got years and years above these guys, and with Andy Reid at the coach, and what you just said, I'll second that. The division or the defense has really stepped up for that team. Won a few of these games last year. I don't think they go 15-2.
No.
But I think they do still pull out the division.
Honestly, 10-7 would be a respectable number for this team this year. And that's wild to say when we're talking about the Chiefs. I still say they're going to be around probably 13-4. It'd probably be the final number. But when you look at the biggest issue for them, and again, this is a weird thing to say, but it's the skill guys, right? We're talking about an offense that hasn't been able to get a run game going at all. Isaiah Pacheco, although a pretty solid running back in terms of scoring, he can't really carry the load for you for over 100, 200 yards a game if you want him to. And that's why I'm highlighting Kareem Hunt this year, being the veteran to come back to the Chiefs. You've been in the system. In my personal opinion, the P. Ryan situation that they had last year, you should be able to do with Kareem Hunt this year and better, because Kareem Hunt is he's built to do that. That's just plays very well into his system. And when you look at the wide receivers, you obviously have Rice, who is
probably expected to miss the first month.
I would assume at least the first 4 games. And then you got Worthy. This is going to be not a make or break year for Worthy, but this is definitely going to be one of those years where they're going to look at the kid and say, all right, dude,
time to step up.
This is why we drafted you.
Yep.
Like Rice came in last year and helped you out, and he'll be back in a month to help you out again. But right now we need you to be the one to really lean on, because at this
Hollywood.
point, yeah, well, Hollywood Brown, obviously being the veteran, is going to be somebody you're going to call upon too, right? But you need somebody to be a consistent threat. And what I mean by threat, I mean when Patrick Mahomes scrambles, your butt's in the end zone, like Tyreek Hill used to be. And Worthy is the only one fast enough to be able to be that guy for them. The other major question mark, obviously, before we move on to the next team, Travis Kelce. We all love Travis Kelce.
No,
I
don't.
love the podcast. I'll be the one to say it. I love Travis Kelce. Sparky may not be on the same.
I heard he was pretty good in Happy Gilmore too.
Oh,
So.
he's fantastic, but he's also plays an absolute just dill hole. So it's something that you're going to enjoy as well. But no, what are we going to get from Travis this year? Is this entire thing really fading away in front of our eyes, and is it time for him to retire? Who knows? We'll see at the end of this year. I feel he's going to make an ultimate decision, but I think from hearing what I've heard from ESPN pundits from the last month and a half about not only Patrick Mahomes, but Travis Kelce himself, I think we're going to get a return to form from both of them. Patrick Mahomes was in the gym 2 days after losing the Super Bowl. That's something that you really, if you're a fan of the Chiefs, you love to hear that, because that's Kobe-like mentality. Okay, I gave myself a day to grieve, back to work.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have a pissed off Mahomes after losing the Super Bowl. I would expect him to have a better season. I still think they win the AFC West. I'm not 100% sure on Kelce. I drafted Mahomes in my fantasy last year, and of course, it was the bad year for him.
Naturally.
But I still think Kelce is...
Kelce's the big question mark, right? Like, are we going to get the Kelce of old?
Yeah, I don't see it.
I don't know if you're going to get, the Hall of Fame level Kelce, but if we can get anywhere close to a top 5 tight end from him at the end of this season, I think you're going to have a successful year as a Kansas City Chief. And the only thing about success for the Chiefs is a Super Bowl win. But that's what's going to take, right? You're going to need Travis Kelce to go back to maybe not the best tight end in the league. That may be a little bit too much to ask, but at least in the top 5 in the conversation at the end of the year. And I don't know. I don't think that's a lot to ask from Travis Kelce to be top 5, being who he is, but that's just me. Let's move on real quick to the next team before we have to take a break. Personally, I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos.
Me too.
Denver Broncos are really the only team to me that fit the threat-like mentality for the Chiefs. As much as I would love to say that the Chargers could get there, there's way too many question marks for the Chargers, and I still don't know if the Chargers can put together an offense to really make the Chiefs scared yet. We'll get to that in a sec after the break. But the Denver Broncos, led by Peyton, who is looking to make the New Orleans-style offense that they had when he was there in Denver, has the perfect quarterback to do that. The only thing that's going to impede it this year is the sophomore slump. And you know how I feel about that. I am 110% a believer in the sophomore slump. And unfortunately, I think Bo Nix is just lined up perfectly to have a sophomore slump. Because if you look at the last 14 rookie quarterbacks to land in the top 15 in stats, only 4 of them the next year come back to look good. So statistically, it doesn't look good for Bo. I would say, though, that his age and his experience in college football, because he has a little bit more than everybody else, is probably going to help in this situation, because he's had so many seasons behind him as a starting quarterback. It may just be one of those situations where he says, I'll shake it off and continue, as he did at the beginning of last year. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, my friend? Because I think the Broncos are poised, especially with the defense they're set up with Patrick Surtain.
That's what I was going to say. I like the Denver defense. I think they won 10 games last year. I think the defense is going to get better. I'm not sure about Bo Nix. Like he said, the sophomore slump is a real deal. But I think having Sean Payton as their coach, I think will benefit him, plus his age. And I like the pickup of Evan Ingram. I think he's a perfect tight end for that type of offense.
It reminds me a lot of Jimmy Graham.
I was just going to say the Jimmy Graham type tight end that we saw in Peyton and in New Orleans. I still think Denver is going to be a 9-10 game winning season like last year. I think they'll be fighting for that wild card. And I think the Chargers will be right on their tail. But we'll take our last break of the hour. We'll get into the other 2 teams, the Raiders and the Chargers, right after this. This is the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back,
We agree. Do you think the Chiefs?
Chiefs Broncos.
Chiefs Broncos.
Chiefs Broncos for sure. I Broncos are going to be in that area of 10-7. I feel. I think they'll improve just a tid. I not, and that doesn't mean like they aren't improving or aren't capable of getting there. I just think that in the situation that they're in, it works out for them to have a little bit of a step this year for the major step next season. It is just going to be step by step kind of a thing. And
I agree. I think that's the Chiefs. I think they'll squeeze out the division,
mm,
but teams
right on
are
their heels,
adapting, and especially
right
in that
on their
division.
heels. And honestly, it's a good situation for you to be in, right? If you're the Denver Broncos, you look at what you're building right now on the offensive side, at least you got essentially, like we said earlier, the New Orleans Saints blight. You got Drew Brees in the making with Bo Nix, at least you hope, right? Smaller quarterback, very accurate, can move when he needs to, and is a great leader on the field. You got a great wide receiver out there with Cortland Sutton, who can be your Marquez Colston situation. You have the Jimmy Graham like tight end now with Evan Ingram. I think that it could really, really work out for you. You're building a solid offensive line, and the defense is studly, led
Yeah.
behind arguably the best corner in the league.
Certain. I love their safety, Brennan Jones. I think
Yes.
they're only going to get better.
You have to have a dang good reason to move on from the safeties they had, and that kid made a very good made you look smart. Let's just say that, because moving on from guys that I've seen in Denver, it's incredible what they've been able to do with switching out the pieces with the young pieces, and it's only getting better, right? So that's what I'm saying. This year you'll take a small step, and I know that sounds like a slight. It's not. I promise you. I don't mean that as a slight at all. You'll take a small step for the massive step that we'll be preparing for next season.
And I still think they probably pull out a wild card like they did last
Yeah,
year, and we'll
absolutely.
see who gets hot at the right time.
Third team in this list, though, for me, Chargers.
Yep,
I got the
same here.
Chargers. And look, man, I am not saying that Jim Harbaugh can't make it work. I think that he wants to create a run-first offense to help Herbert. I think that he thinks that a solid run-first offense will help, just like he had in Michigan with JJ. He didn't expect JJ to throw for 300, 400 yards every game. 200 was good enough with a couple touchdowns, and he allowed everybody else to get in on the action too. And I think that's what he's trying to create here in LA, because obviously the signing of Slater yesterday was a big signing of that. Going out and getting a proven veteran running back in Najee Harris, who's usually 1,000-yard marksman every single year. This year is obviously a wild situation because the fireworks situation he's still dealing with. But you still went and drafted a kid in Omarion Hampton who could probably be that guy for you anyway. It looks good for the Chargers. Obviously, you lost a handful of wide receivers and you lost Mike Williams again. So I'm not exactly sure what you're going to get out of that, right? That's why I put you at 3. I think you're still a 500 team, maybe 9-8, 8-9, somewhere in that area. You might fall off a little bit at the 7-10 area, but it's going to be tough for me to say that you have the offensive capabilities now to beat teams like Denver and Kansas City, let alone anybody else that's going to be coming to your yard. And
those division games with the Raiders are never,
they're tough in itself. You're going to split with the Raiders, and that's saying something. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how it is, it's going to be one of those years for Jim Harbaugh and this offense. Is it going to work? I think that you're set up really well, and I think bringing in Greg Roman is a great situation for you as well, because Greg Roman, for those of you who don't know, who handles the offense, last 9 of his last 10 teams have been in the top 4 in rushing. So they have a clear ID what they want to do. They want to be the run-first team, just like Philadelphia was. I just don't know if you have the pieces to really make it work right now.
I personally think they're going to win 10.
Do you think they're going to
10 games? I think they'll take a step back from 11-6 from last year. I always have a question on Herbert. I think Harbaugh gets the best out of Herbert. We'll see what that best is. I really think I circled when I was looking at their depth chart and their rookies. I really like Trey Harris. He's a big boy type wide receiver. And I think, the Williams injury and the question mark for me is the running backs. I don't know if I don't know Hampton well enough to know if he could step in and be a
number one running back.
I mean, he could probably be, but I just don't know if he has the durability to be that starting running back all season. I hope so. I have him on my mock drafts. I've looked at him. I just don't think if Najee can't be healthy for the season, that will be the big question mark, and that will, kind of go in with what Herbert can do. I don't see Herbert as a top 10 quarterback,
I remember you
but
saying that.
he could fit perfectly with this hardball type offense. And my question is really the defense as well. But I think they take a step back, maybe win 9-10 games, but probably miss the playoffs.
It's going to be one of those situations where Herbert is going to be what takes you to the promised land, and Jim Harbaugh can get anything out of any quarterback he works with. I genuinely believe that he can get anything out of any player he works with. He's just that enthusiastic and that charismatic. But this situation for the Chargers is just weird to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm just jury's still out to me on if this offense could work, especially with the lack of production from wide receivers. Ladd McConkey is great, but is he really a number one guy? I mean, we've been saying this about a lot of different guys at his position as well, though. We said the same thing about Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. So maybe he comes out and absolutely just proves everybody wrong. But at this point, I just don't know if they have what it takes to supersede the two teams we said earlier, which are the Broncos and the Chiefs. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if both of those teams beat them outright on both sides of or on home and away. I mean, let's move on real quick to the Raiders with the little time we have left. Last in the division, but I don't think that's going to be a bad thing for the Raiders. And hear me out. You're going to have a completely new team, completely new scheme. And honestly, I know I said a couple weeks ago that I felt like a bad start might lead to a fire sale for the Raiders. I'm going to recede that. I'm going to pull that back. I don't think it is. I think Mark Davis has a belief in what Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly can do here. I do think, though, that Pete Carroll is going to be on a short leash. If we don't get a good season or two out of him to begin this, I do think the Raiders move on from Pete Carroll quickly and potentially move on to Chip Kelly, because you don't pay him that money to just kind of sit there and not be the next in line. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I know Ashton Genty obviously is going to be on a lot of people's big boards. And I'm going to throw this out there too before I give it to you. I'm sorry, but next year in fantasy football, we're going to be talking about Ashton Genty as a top 10 pick for your fantasy football drafts. That's just my prediction.
I'm already looking at him.
Are you really?
I'm already looking at him because I know what Genty can do in college. I watched enough of him, and I think with the Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly type offense, I think he's gonna get the carries. So I mean, I don't know if he'll play out, but I definitely know that Genty's gonna be the workhorse. Plus, I like Mostert as a fill-in if he can hold on to the ball. Mostert is a great running back 2 or 1B or whatever the hell they call him now. I'm going to probably say the same thing. I think the Raiders are better than they were last year. I think they win more than 4 games. It's also the first year under this regime. I don't know what Pete Carroll or Geno can bring, but they have a mindset of what they have. They have a plan, and that's what has been missing with the Raiders the last couple of seasons. So I'm kind of excited. I love Genty. I wanted him in Miami, and I think losing Wilkins is my question is on the defensive side. I know they picked up some other guys, plus they have Max and they have big guys, but that Wilkins contract is going to haunt them if they ended up losing that grievance.
Absolutely. And honestly, we have a little bit of a development in that situation as well of what led to the Christian Wilkins release. We'll get to that after our interview with Leanne Morgan. Again, Raider fans, don't fret. I don't think you have anything to worry about. It's going to be a rough year. Don't get me wrong. I got you guys probably about 7 games. I think you make an improvement. Consistency at the quarterback position is going to be huge for you when it comes to Geno Smith being there. And honestly, I think this is just a bridge year for you anyway. Much like we talked about with the Broncos, you have the pieces that are sitting there ready. You just got to find the right guy to put them together. I'm not sure if Pete Carroll is that guy, though. I'm just going to go out there and say that. Your offense is going to go from probably the second most pass-heavy to a very run-centered one. So it's going to be a really interesting year for you. We'll take a break real quick, get to the NFC West on the other side of this break. This is the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. Early Bird Special Hour 2. Join us in the 8:30 segment. We got Leanne Morgan, comedian, coming on. She's going to be here at the Dignity Health Theater on Saturday during her 100-plus city tour. 100. This isn't the first one she's done, too. That's one of the questions I wanted to get to her. This is part of the Just Getting Started tour that she's on right now. She, I believe, is done at least one or two of these. And that's for those of you who have not traveled like that, 100 cities in a tour is wild. The amount of work she must be doing. That's why we have a very small time crunch with her, very 10, 15 minutes like situation. So we got to get it in and out. But I'm very excited to talk to her just because I'm excited to hear about this entire series that she's going to be a part of. Leanne on Netflix is going to be dropping on Thursday. So we'll get to that when we get to that here in the next half hour. We got to get to the NFC West, though. We gave you our thoughts on the AFC West. I mean, pretty unanimous as last year. Same thing. Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders. Not necessarily something that can't change, obviously, but I just don't have a whole ton of faith that Pete Carroll is the answer for you out there in Las Vegas.
The only thing we saw is a swap with the Broncos and Chargers, and it's really going to be close. It was a game difference last season, so
I just feel like you're going to get more of a proven product with the Broncos than you are with the Chargers, right? I mean,
and growth from the Raiders, and we'll see how.
Yeah,
they've got to be better than the 4 games last year.
100%. But let's get to the NFC West, which personally, in my opinion, I am going to take the Rams to win this.
Me too.
It is hard to pick against them when I really boil. Like, I'm looking at all 4 of these teams. I don't love the Cardinals. I don't love the Seahawks, but the Seahawks at least are it's kind of the same thing as the Broncos, right? Your defense at least is a proven commodity and you can get behind it. But the Rams, again, unless I can see something different, Sean McVay rules the West. The offense is going to be right in step with what it usually is. The only issue is that you're going to be led by a aging quarterback. And if we're going to sit there and say Aaron Rodgers isn't enough to make it to a championship, you can't sit there and tell me Matthew Stafford isn't in the same conversation. I love Matthew Stafford. And again, I know it sounds like I'm just throwing shade at the guy, but I'm not. I feel like there are unfair expectations to put this all on Stafford. I think you need more from everybody. I think the defense, although everybody, you're losing out on one of the best players to ever play at his position in Aaron Donald. But
Cooper Kupp's gone.
Cooper Kupp is gone as well, correct. And you really haven't filled that era. I mean, you have with Cooper, I shouldn't say that, but the defensive side of it, you haven't filled that at all. I mean, you look at the defense, it's really just low 20s in most of the statistical categories. I mean, 18th in conversion percentage, 19th in defensive scoring, 24th in yards given up. So you can't sit there and say that you've looked great on defense. You need more from the defensive side of the ball, and you need more from these wide receivers specifically. I need a big year from Devontae Adams.
I think we see it.
I think we have seen it. I think it's going to be there. But that is going to be the key to me. It's not going to be, can Stafford get them the ball? We know Stafford can throw them the ball. We know Stafford is a tough son of a gun and will sit in there and will take every hit that you ask him to and deliver. So to me, your success is not based around Matthew Stafford. I feel like that is a wild and way too high of a thing for him right now. And I don't mean that in a sense of a slight towards him. I think the pressure should be on everybody else.
I think we get a better Devontae than we've seen recently. My question is, if Kyren Williams and Puka can stay healthy, I think they have the division.
Absolutely.
But that's a big if they can stay healthy.
Is the other big if too, right? Because everything that I read, and I don't mean this is my thoughts, I'm just kind of echoing them. No one's really taking him seriously as an elite running back.
I love that guy.
I do too. I mean, we're talking about a guy who scored a touchdown in dang near every game last year. How is he? What? He was rushing for over 100 yards almost every game. What are we talking about? Like, that is where I'm like, that was really disrespectful for most of what I read. It's like, oh, he's not fast enough or big enough. When are we going to get over that? It's not about how big or fast you are. It's about the work ethic and how you are set up in the scheme. If it works for you, it works for you. And trust me, Kyren Williams on the Rams, it works. and it's going to continue to work. That's what I'm saying. So that's where I agree with you. I don't understand why people are the disrespect of Kyron Williams is absolutely ridiculous to
Do you
me.
think Puka, if healthy, continues his fantasy stats?
100%. Well, and again, that's where I'm at with this team is that you really haven't lost a step in terms of having a star wide receiver. It is more how can you get the most out of them?
I mean, obviously,
Because
Devontae and Cooper are different types of receivers.
yes,
And I think it's an upgrade when it comes to that offense. I think the double with Puka and Cooper Cup, it was almost running into each other. And I think the Devontae with McVay is only going to make this offense better. But the age of Stafford, I think this is probably his last year or so, year maybe two with the Rams. So I really think Kyron is the dark horse. I think I would circle him or highlight him on fantasy if you can. And he always drops later than what I would always circle him at. But I do like the Devontae pickup. I think that it was kind of good for him and his career to get away from Rodgers. And I think they pull out the division.
I have to agree. It's just the only major question mark I have for them again is the defensive front. I need to see something change there in order to believe that you are a contender for a Super Bowl at least, and your offensive front as well. The inconsistencies on the offensive line have killed you. And honestly, it's what got Stafford hurt last year. I'm not going to sit there and say Stafford's got 1 year left. I think barring an injury, he's got multiple. I would say that he plays out the rest of his career or rest of his contract with the Rams at least. But barring he gets injured again this season, knock on wood, God would hate to see that. But it is a certain situation where I feel like you need more from everybody else than you need from him. You have what you're going to get from Matthew Stafford. You're not going to magically get anything better from Matthew Stafford.
So last year, the Rams and Seahawks ended the season both at 10-7, with the Rams pulling out the tiebreaker. You think it's going to be as tight as it was last year?
Probably. Again, the West beats up on each other so much in both AFC and NFC.
I was going to say in both.
Well, you could say that about a lot of these divisions, I guess, but it is one of those situations where it always seems to come down to a tight race at the end of the year. I don't know if Seattle's going to be that team to be at the end of it, though. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's the Cardinals. I'm still going to ride with the 49ers.
Ooh. Well, that's our first disagreement.
I understand that, but I'm going to sit here and say, although the 49ers have easily been the most gutted team this year because you lost 8 starters, but when you really look at what they've set up, you still have Kyle Shanahan. You have the system that he creates. You have the quarterback to run it because Brock Purdy is the perfect quarterback to run it. You have Christian McCaffrey coming back from injury. Brandon Ayuk will be back from injury. I think a lot of these guys come back very angry and ready to prove it this year. That last year was I don't want to call it a fluke, but it was definitely an injury-riddled year for them that they kind of just halfway through said, it's a wash. It is what it is. And the biggest highlight to me that I think we need to start talking about a little bit more is even with all the discrepancies that we heard about later after the fact, Debo and all that type of stuff, you never heard a peep. So this team, that shows me this team is a cohesive unit. They have camaraderie, and even though there's drama within, they don't let it leak out. That's a good sign. That means that although you'll have the situation still, that's going to happen throughout the season. There's going to be no major distractions from the 49ers. And arguably, that puts you in a better spot already than Seattle. I don't mean this to sound wrong against Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold coming into this season already is a distraction. Is he going to be better? Or is he going to be as good as he was? Or are we going to get the Carolina, New York Jets Sam Darnold? That in itself causes too much turmoil. And the minute that Sam Darnold starts to look like the Sam Darnold of old of the Jets and the Panthers, we're done with him. The media is done with him. Everybody, oh no, he can't do it. It was all the system. It was all the Vikings. They just made him look good. They just made a mistake paying him all this money. It's all going to be a massive distraction. So in my opinion, when you really look at what these two teams present, I think the Niners are in a better spot to fight for the title than the Seattle Seahawks will be.
I think the Niners will get better, obviously, going off of a 6 win season. I think they'll be better, but you mentioned it right when you started it. They've been gutted,
Mhm.
and there is a lot of pieces, core pieces that they lost. I know the Debo thing isn't as big of a deal as everyone says because Debo's hit and miss with injuries throughout the last 3 years with the Niners, but he is a big chunk of what that offense did to run. But losing McCaffrey last year early in the season kind of highlighted what we were getting out of the Niners. I think they get up 8-9 wins this season, but I still think they finished third in the division.
Yeah. But again, the only thing that I can honestly say Seattle has over them is the consistency at other areas of the field. But we also have to think if we're going to talk about the Niners being gutted, Seattle's team has been gutted too. You lost both of your starting wide receivers, entire and Lockett and DK Metcalf. Granted, you still have Smith and Jigba, but have we really seen enough out of him to say he's a pure number one wide receiver? I say no, but I mean, we'll see after this year. Sam Darnold obviously coming in as a big question mark, as I mentioned earlier. Their offense has never been able to put up a top 15, let alone a top 20 rush game. They've been 28th in the league the last 2 years in a row, have been a team that has had to rely solely on the pass game. And yet you took away the top two choices for him. So I think that everybody's kind of looking over that when it comes to Seattle, right? I love the head coach. McDonald is a fantastic coach. He's a defensive minded guy, though, and it's going to stick that way. He's not going to magically be able to fix the offense when he's had nothing there. So that's where I think that is going to be the biggest issue with Seattle, right? And it's going to take them back into that third place area because even with the Arizona Cardinals, because I don't even know if Arizona is going to be the team we saw last year. They may show up out of nowhere like they have the last couple of years, because it seems like every other year Arizona puts it together. But Seattle, we got to talk about how they've gutted all of the skill players out of there. Your offensive line hasn't exactly gotten better, and you're essentially putting all of your money into the Sam Darnold bucket. So if Sam doesn't work, the team's not going to work.
I love their coach. I think I'm on the opposite side. I think Darnold fits perfectly with McDonald. I like Smith Nigba. I love Cooper Kupp in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is a team that is overlooked. I think the Niners have bigger holes to fill than Seattle, and I think Seattle getting younger on the defensive side will actually benefit them. And, the division isn't going to be that tight. I believe what we saw out of the first year with McDonald, I think will grow. And obviously he's a defensive minded coach. I think the Seattle defense probably takes a step back just because they're young and it's just the first year with a lot of these younger guys. But I do like the offense. I love the running backs in Seattle. And I think Darnold is just slap me later, but I think it's an upgrade over Geno. I think what Darnold can do in this offense, especially with a big receiver like that, plus a Cooper Kupp that's coming out, happy to be in Seattle, back with where his hometown area.
Absolutely.
And I think we get an upgrade of Kupp as long as he can stay healthy.
That's the big question for me. Because again, I know everybody's texting, what about Cooper Kupp? Obviously, Cooper Kupp got put into the wide receiver room. Fair. But can Cooper play the whole season? Have we seen Cooper play the whole season for a while? No. So as much as I'd love to say, yeah, Cooper Kupp could come in and be the Cooper Kupp of old that he was with the Rams and just absolutely tear people apart in Seattle, and we could see essentially a partnership between him and Sam Darnold that could propel them into the playoff run. But I don't I'm not going to sit here and live in Delulu and say that he hasn't had his injuries and he isn't getting older. There's a reason the Rams moved on from him. It wasn't exactly because he wasn't producing for them offensively. Everybody knows that Cooper always was going to catch a ball if thrown to, but it's more of, can he stay healthy? Can this wide receiver room really become a cohesive unit if he's not there? And again, I don't know if Seattle's really made the necessary steps to become that team yet. I really don't. The defensive side of it, I give them credit because they have two great defensive ends and Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously crashing down on quarterbacks at all times. And Witherspoon is going to be a really, really just stud corner, nickel corner, wherever you want to put him, player for you for the Seattle Seahawks for the foreseeable future. But is that enough to get through teams that have guys like Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Kyler Murray? I mean, there's a lot here. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a massive year this year.
Well, we'll take our break and we'll get into the Cardinals, and we'll get into a couple football texts since we've got into the West. And then we'll get into our sit down with Leanne Morgan, who will be joining us at 8:30 ahead of her show this weekend, Saturday. Get your tickets right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. Here in about 10 minutes, we're going to be talking to comedian Leanne Morgan,
Actress
and actress and author. And she's done everything at this point.
jewelry seller.
She's got a wild story on how she got into that. Yeah, I was just about to say, like, jewelry story is crazy. I can't wait to get into this with her, but she is going to be a fantastic interview. Hope you join us here. She talks about her next show here in Bakersfield this Saturday at Dignity Health Theater. And again, tickets are available at AXS.com. Go buy them right now. Go. We'll wait for you. It's okay. All right, we're back. Anyways, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals because we've given our thoughts on the other three teams in the NFC West. Again, I think that it's going to come down to if Arizona really could put it together on the offensive side. Drew Petzing has led this team to a top 12 standing in yards and scoring while outrunning dang near every team except for the Ravens and the Eagles. But we still can't get Kyler Murray to run for some reason.
It's probably best.
You're probably right. Yeah, honestly, I was thinking about it while writing my notes. I was thinking, oh, you know what? They're right. He never runs anymore. We never see the explosive plays from Kyler that we used to see. And I think you're right. I think that's why. I think that it's the health situation. He knows, obviously, he's a smaller quarterback. He's a smaller guy, and getting hit hurts a lot. So maybe that's by design. Maybe they don't want him to run that much. I mean, I think while doing my notes, if I'm right, he ran maybe 3 times within the 5-yard line of their 23 they took in the entire season. So it's one of those situations where he really does not want to run for touchdowns anymore. But if that is so the case, do you think that this entire partnership between him and Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to work? Or is Arizona going to have to move on to a different quarterback?
I think this whole Arizona, when I was doing my notes, Arizona is a tough one for me. When I was looking at it, I don't think the Niners is as good as the media puts out. And I could be way wrong with Seattle, and Arizona could be the team that surpasses them. I do like Kyler, but he's a kind of hot and cold type quarterback. Sometimes he still makes those rookie mistakes where, like, why the hell did you throw that when you had 10 yards wide open to run? And I do like that, you don't have to run as much when James Conner is running like he has the last couple years. I do think, to your question, I think we get the better Marvin Harrison. I think he surpasses the 1,000 yards this season. I love the kid, and I think his rookie year was kind of tough, just dealing with media, dealing with this fanatics crap to start the season. I think this is his full off season where he has his mind on the prize. I think Arizona is going to be a better team, but I just don't know if they have the pieces to be a playoff team quite yet.
Again, it's kind of the same thing for me when I look at Seattle, right? I mean, outside of the fact that Arizona's defense is nowhere near as good as Seattle's defense.
I could see the same thing.
Is Arizona's defense, when you look at how bad they were last year, I mean, it was really just 28th in third down conversion, 20th in yards given up. You look at every statistical category, they looked ugly outside of maybe 2 or 3, and I think those like pass deflections. So it's not ones that are really going to be great.
Yeah.
It just shows that you get thrown on a lot. And it's just ugly when it comes to the Arizona defense. So that's where I'm at when it comes to this team is, although your offense has looked good in the top 10 to 12 area, you still have to figure out a way to get at least this duo to work, and Kyler and Marvin, because it didn't work very well last year, at least at the beginning of the season. Kind of picked up towards the end, but we didn't get to see exactly how capable these two can be as teammates together. I think you're going to see that more this year. I think you're right, Spark, but you also need a massive, massive overhaul of this defense, because the last good Arizona defense, and they weren't even that good, they were just good enough to make the playoffs, was when JJ Watt was there. And that was really the last time they were formidable, because they were undefeated at home, although they still got embarrassed by the 49ers in the playoffs and sent home very quickly. Or it was the Rams. It was one of the two. It was Rams or 49ers, regardless. I just remember it was a division game, and they got embarrassed and sent home. And they have never really bounced back from that since. I don't think Kyler has really bounced back from that entire situation. So when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, your ceiling, unfortunately, is how good your offense could be. And for me, an offense in the NFL without a defense can only be 6 games. Maybe. And that's if you are a really good offense.
I think we're on the same page. I think I had him at 6-7 wins.
Yeah.
I do like what the hell was his name? The guy that was with the Dolphins last year, and he went back to finish his career in Arizona.
Oh, Calais Campbell.
I love that he's back in Arizona, but I think there is, like you said, there's several positions on that defense that I just don't think they could get into double-digit wins. And I mean, I could see them pulling out some sneaky wins out of, the division games, whether it's Seattle. I could be way off with Seattle. I'm just leaning towards of the coaching. I like the coach McDonald, and I just don't think McCaffrey can stay healthy for a full season.
Mhm.
So I think Arizona could definitely get some sneaky wins that they weren't projected to win, but I still think they're a couple years away.
I just find it funny that if you really took the Seattle Seahawks and what they did good and the Arizona Cardinals and what they do good and you put them together, you would have probably the perfect team for the NFC West. You really would. If you took the defense of the Seattle Seahawks and put it together with the offense and maybe the wide receivers from Seattle as well, just to give them a little bit more, I think you would definitely be beneficial. It would make a team that could at least take this division pretty handedly, but you can't get either of them to actually fix their problems enough to make a big enough leap forward over the Niners and the Rams. That's why I'm like, until I have seen some sort of major overhaul from both of these teams, I'm forever going to say it is the Rams and the Niners division until obviously Stafford retires. And then it's just going to be the Niners division because apparently that's how everybody believes this Rams team to be, is it's Stafford and everything else. I'm like, no, I think that Stafford benefits from a very good team of very players that is also led by an offensive guru in Sean McVay. So I don't know. I still would stand by mine that I'm going to go with the Rams first, Niners second, Seattle third, Cardinals fourth.
I
That's just
got
where
the
I'm
same
sitting.
thing. I just swapped Seattle and Frisco, but we're gonna skip our break as we have our guest ready to roll.
Oh, we're gonna skip.
Comedian,
Okay, fantastic.
actress.
Give me a second. I gotta get my notes in front of me then, since we're not gonna take our break. So we are very excited to talk to actress, comedian, and author as she comes into Bakersfield, California on this 100 city tour, one of, I believe, 2 that she has done, the Just Getting Started tour. We are very happy to welcome Lee Ann Morgan to the show. Hi, how are you?
Honey, I'm so tickled to be on here, and thank y'all for having me because y'all are right in the middle of talking about NFL football. And then
Well,
y'all
it's
got
football
to turn
season.
to me.
It's we talk to comedians all the time on this show. You are in very good company. Trust me. We do a little bit of different stuff here on this show. So we're more of an entertainment based thing. So we are very happy to talk to you. But I got my first question for you because I was reading your bio and I was unaware of this, but can you please share the story of how you got into comedy and how all this started, the jewelry sales story and all of that?
Okay, boys, I married Chuck Morgan. I met him at the University of Tennessee, which, let me say, I love SEC football. I don't know if y'all care about that, but
Oh, love
we
SEC
do.
football.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
we love it. Okay, and he bought a small business up in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains and moved me up there. And I had my first baby, and I all the time, boys, thinking I'm going to be in Hollywood. I don't know how, I don't know when. I love stand up. I think I can do it. Blah blah blah. So I had my first baby, and to make a little money to get my hair highlighted, because my husband's very tight with money and had a small business. I started selling jewelry like women sell Mary Kay and Tupperware in people's homes, so that he could take care of the baby at night, and I could be with the baby during the day. And it was like my own little comedy club, and I developed an act. And I started booking about a year in advance. And the company noticed and asked me to start speaking at their big things. And that's how it started. That's how I got into stand up.
That's incredible. So, did you have any early inspirations? Like, was comedy really something that you thought you had like a knack for at all?
Yes, my darling. Well, I grew up loving Johnny Carson when all the comedians would come on. So I always loved David Letterman, Richard Lewis, Jay Leno. I loved, of course, growing up. I mean, I'll be 60 in October, so I love Phyllis Diller, Red Skelton back in the very beginning, and then all the people since then: Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Lewis. I've just always loved it, and I thought I could do it. And my husband and I went on a date before we got married. We went on a trip to Southern California, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "I want to go on that hearse tour where you ride in a hearse and see where people have been murdered in L.A."
That's awesome.
And then which was fascinating. And then I said, "I want to go to the Comedy Store." And that's the first time I'd gone into a comedy club, and I saw Don Herrera and all these wonderful people, and my heart beat out of my body, and I thought, I can do that. I know I can do it. And then, so now I've been doing stand-up for 25 years.
That's incredible. So, I mean, at the heart of all of this, obviously, is your family, which is the vast majority of your comedy and stuff. So, but How would you really describe your comedy for somebody who hasn't heard you before?
I would tell people I'm a storyteller. And I wish I could be. Jerry Seinfeld now is a good friend of mine, and it's been so helpful to me because I've got a sitcom coming out on Netflix, and he walked me through that because that almost killed me. But anyway, it was frightening and fun and all that together. But I've always looked at him and thought, oh, I wish I could write a joke like Jerry Seinfeld about a cotton ball. But that's not how I write. I am more of a storyteller, and I talk about what's really going on in my life. And I think that's why this is, blown up like it has in my early 50s, is that people can relate to me. I mean, I talk about, things that everybody goes through. I've got a husband. I've got elderly parents I'm taking care of. I've got grandbabies. I've got children I've launched, and I've gone through menopause. I hate to say that in front of good-looking sports guys. But, yeah, I used to be so cute in the 80s. I want y'all to know that. But, yeah, I talk about all that. And I have one special on Netflix now called I'm Every Woman that came out in 23, and I just shot my second one. That'll come out in the fall. But I've got the sitcom called Leanne coming out. But I'm on tour right now, and I get to come to Bakersfield, California, and I've been there, and I've performed there.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, I'm a big fan. Me and the wife watched I'm Every Woman over the weekend. And with the new sitcom coming up, I believe it is released Thursday this week. So we'll get to see it this Saturday right after it starts. But you said you've been in Bakersfield. So when did we miss you?
Okay, y'all, this had to have been in probably 2018. And I'll just be honest with y'all, my career was in the toilet. And nobody cared. I couldn't get arrested. And I had done a dry bar special that my manager at the time said, these people in Salt Lake City are doing these comedy specials, and they want you to do one. And he goes, nobody will ever see it. And I went out there. They paid me $2,000. They put me in a motel where I thought I was going to be murdered. I did a special. I hated it. Y'all should see my hair color. It's very unrealistic. But anyway, that got like 50 million views. But I couldn't sell tickets. I don't even know why. It didn't even make sense. But this precious church, big non-denominational church in Bakersfield, California, hired me to come out and do a show for like a women's night. And it was a huge church. I don't even know how many people were there. And I had a ball. And I hope these women remember me, because that was one of the times when honest to goodness, after doing these shows, after the dry bar special, I thought things are not, I'm just not doing theaters and things I want to do. I want to be like Jim Gaffigan, Nate Bargatze. And I thought it's not going well. Maybe I should bow out. After 20-something years, this isn't going well. And then, honey, right when I did that, when I decided to stay in, it blew up. And this is my second, like you boys said, my second tour, 100. And so I've done over 200 cities.
Wow.
How is that?
Yeah.
How is the tour? How do you handle all of this work at the same time? I really respect people with great work ethics and stuff. And that's why I really respect like comedians and wrestlers and stuff like that. Cause you guys have a next level just work ethic when you really look at all of the stuff on your guys' plate. So how did you manage to juggle not only one, but 200 city tours, a Netflix special, a Netflix series coming out? Like, how did you juggle all of this?
Well, thank you for saying that about my work ethic. I've worked like a mule. It's been hard. And I tell you that when I first got my first tour, the Big Panty Tour, and that was 100 cities, when you see me on this Netflix series, when that drops on Thursday, you'll see I'm a little inflamed. I think my head was, when you look at my face, and I hate to say this in front of good-looking sports guys, but I looked inflamed, and I realized Nate Bargatze is now a good friend of mine, and he said, Lan, you've got to train like you are in the Olympics, and you've got to eat well, and you've got to exercise when you get to that hotel room. And it's a lot. Like, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm doing their state fair tomorrow night, and I've got suitcases lined up because then I'll get to go to California, and I've been out for probably 2 weeks, and it's hard to stay healthy, but I really think I'm getting a handle on it now that I've seen my butt on TV. but yeah, it's been a lot, but it's all fun. But it's the good news is my stand-up is I've lived it, and I know that material, and I could do it in my sleep. When I had to learn a script every week, that was daunting, but I figured out how to do it. And I ended up having a ball. And just wait till y'all see who's on this. Ryan Stiles from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
I was just about to bring that up. I love Ryan Stiles. How was it like working with him?
Oh my gosh, he's brilliant. He is brilliant, and he's so easy to be around. And he plays my ex-husband, who has left me for another woman.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a ball. I mean, he's darling, and we really wanted him, because I'm a writer and executive producer on it. We didn't want to make him out to be a villain, and I'm telling you, he is brilliant. And then, okay, Blake Clark plays my little daddy that in all the Adam Sandler movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's now out on Happy Gilmore 2, and he's a joey. And then Kristen Johnson plays my sister, Emmy Award-winning actress. We have a ball. Celia Weston plays my mom, and she played my mom in the movie I did with Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell. You're Cordially Invited. So we fell in love on that movie, and so I hope people like it. It's funny, but it's heartfelt, and it's something like it's a multicam. It's something that you don't see a lot of anymore.
Well, we're excited to see the show. It starts out Thursday. It's called Leanne. My final question is, 25 years in the comedy world, how was it? How easy was it to just step over and into the acting scene?
Well, okay, y'all. The sitcom, it was very daunting. But the part that worried me to death is I didn't know the terminology, like camera blocking and all that, the technical part.
Mm-hmm.
But they were wonderful at helping me with that. But I think Jerry Seinfeld, Ray Romano, Roseanne, all these comedians, is because we do have timing. And when we filmed it in front of a live audience. And so when I get in front of that live audience, I was okay. I could feel the timing and the jokes, and
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty easy for me. It was all the technical stuff that I was like, what is all this?
Let's see,
What am I doing?
That was going to be one of my main questions too. Is I wasn't sure if this was filmed in front of a live audience or even if they did that anymore. But I could not imagine having to do an entire comedy show and trying to land jokes without somebody there actually laughing at you. You know what I mean? It would have to get just incredibly awkward.
Oh, so awkward. And when I did the movie, that was that brilliant Nick Stoller that did Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And
Mm-hmm.
it was all these wonderful actors and comedians in that movie. And I would be so freaked out because, they can't laugh because they're shooting at me. And I would think, well, that wasn't funny what I said. Oh, my gosh, that wasn't funny. And then Rory Scovel, who's a good friend of mine who played my brother, he goes, Lynn, I promise you, it's funny. They can't crack up because they're trying to, it's film. And that was very difficult for me. I thought, I suck and they're going to fire me. So the movie was very awkward at first, but I end up, loving that. But yeah, that live audience in a multicam sitcom saved me.
Absolutely. And then before we let you go, I have to ask one more question. It's about your book, What in the World? A Southern Woman's Guide to Laughing at Life's Unexpected Curveballs and Beautiful Blessings. What was it like writing that and just being able to express yourself as being a woman in the comedy space for so long?
It was that was hard, and it was wonderful, and I'm proud of it. But I'll just tell y'all, my literary agent, who's darling, I really was trying to go deep at first and
Mm-hmm.
talk about all the horrible things I did in the 80s at the University of Tennessee. And he said, Leanne, how about we pull back on that? He goes, you're not Joan Crawford yet. He goes, why don't we just do the fun part? Let's introduce the world to Leanne, and then maybe do a cookbook on your second one. And then the third one, you can talk about all the sin you committed while Peyton Manning was the quarterback. But I wanted to throw that in there for y'all because, sports boys. I know Cooper. He's darling and funny. But anyway,
Well,
it was
when's the
wonderful
cookbook
to get to
coming
write
out?
a book, and I'm thankful I got through that.
Well, I'm looking forward to the cookbook now.
I know, really. And then final, real quick before we let you go. Obviously, your show here in Bakersfield, August 2nd, here at the Dignity Health Theater. I love to ask this question of all comedians just because I know you all have a different story. But do you have like the weirdest place you've ever done a show story or anything like that you would like to share with our listeners?
The most awkward thing I've ever done was in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. somebody called me and said, all these big cabins, in the Smoky Mountains that people rent, this company owned all these cabins, and they called me and they said, "Do you speak Spanish?" And I said, "No, I do not." And I said, "But I just moved back from San Antonio where I worked at a club down there all the time." And I said, "I've got a lot of comedians that are Hispanic and they are wonderful and I can get y'all somebody." And they said, they need to learn how to speak English anyway. And I should have known in my heart that was a bad sign. And I went on and did it. It was a Christmas party and all these precious people from South America were there, and they didn't know what I was saying.
Oh, wow.
And I thought they should have hired somebody to play the guitar for their Christmas party, not me. Honey, I didn't know. It was awful, and I felt so sorry for those precious people that they had to sit and listen to this country woman try to talk.
Wow.
But that was the weirdest one.
I thought I've had some awkward Christmas parties. That must have been interesting. Good Lord.
Oh.
Well, Leanne, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Once again, tickets are still available at AXS.com for the Just Getting Started tour. That'll be taking a stop right here, Bakersfield, California, this Saturday, August 2nd at the Dignity Health Theater. And go check out Netflix's Leanne starting this Thursday.
It's on my playlist.
It's absolutely on mine as well. I can't wait to check it out. Thank you so much for your time, Leanne. We really appreciate you.
Oh, y'all are darling. Thank y'all for letting me on.
Absolutely. We hope to talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll take a break real quick, pay some bills. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And we're back. Thank you to Leanne Morgan for joining us.
What a sweetheart.
Fantastic. He touched himself. You can totally tell. Just the Southern hospitality just oozes out of it. It's fantastic. I love talking. Honestly, I should have told her I have family down in Tennessee too.
Tennessee.
Went to the University of Tennessee and everything. They tried to get me to go down there, and I have not been able to go down to Nashville at all or any of the area. I need to. It's on my bucket list. It really is. Or I shouldn't say my bucket list. It's on my list of places to go and travel to. Bucket list is a very evil term. I don't like that. But we got a couple text messages about this. And to be honest with you, I didn't really want to talk about it until tomorrow post press conference when all of the information actually came out. But yes, Deion Sanders is set to have a press conference today at 10 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Mountain time, to address, I would assume, was his health issues that have been popping up the last couple months. His health team will be with him as well. But at first, me thinking as probably just complications with his diabetes and stuff like that. But this was released yesterday. It's a video from back in May. It was released by his son, Deion Jr., and it's a video of him talking to his dad about his health right now and the seriousness of it. So let's hear it real quick. That is wild. This is serious. And now I'm concerned with what we're going to hear today. This was back in May, months ago, early May. So we're talking about he has made a will and testament. That's what he meant by that. If you didn't catch his drift for some reason, I mean, I'm now concerned that we're going to get a bombshell today that Deion Sanders, one, would probably have to walk away from the University of Colorado as the head coach, but two, most likely is dealing with some sort of illness that threatens his life.
Some infections or
I don't know what, cancer, hopefully not, but the big C always pops up at the worst times. I mean, it's sad. I don't want to see this, but I was hoping that this was going to be something a little more lighthearted. Or maybe him just saying, complications with the diabetes. It's all good now. We're good to go. Football season is upon us.
positive
Messages. But after hearing that, now I'm worried.
Yeah, the health concerns has been an issue for him for a couple years, and I know last week they announced that he was stepping away for a short term or a short while, but now that the press conference scheduled for today, I mean, hopefully we get some positive news, but it does not sound like it.
He's been in and out of the facility all summer trying to do his recruitment and all of that, obviously, but if this is something that is that serious where he's talking to his son about making a will and testament and not being here anymore, yeah, I don't know if coaching football is exactly in his future anymore. And I think he's done himself a service, to be honest with you. He led Jackson State back into some relevancy in terms of, athletics down there. He has turned around a organization in Colorado who now is starting to get, excited about football again. If you lose Deion, that's unfortunate, but honestly, I think that he has done everybody a service being a coach and doing what he has done for each organization, not only his own sons and Travis Hunter. Because let's be honest, if it wasn't for Deion Sanders, we probably wouldn't see any of those boys. Travis Hunter wouldn't be the number 2 overall pick. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the NFL probably would not have gone down to an HBCU to see Travis Hunter play. And to be honest with you, Shiloh and Shador probably would have got recognized just because of who their dad was. But as we saw from them as well, probably wouldn't be where we are today. So I think if you're Deion Sanders, might be time to focus on yourself, focus on your health, and just worry about you and your family. So if it is that serious, and I hope and pray it's not. I hope we're overreacting, much like we did the other day with the Justin Fields situation. But I hope and pray that I am wrong, and I am eating crow tomorrow morning, and Deion is happy and healthy. We get Deion Sanders in Colorado football for a long time.
That'd be positive, Crow. The text saying Deion's health is getting real bad and thinking he steps away and won't coach this season, but hopefully he gets the help he needs.
That's what I'm thinking.
Prayers out to his family.
I'd hate to see him step away, but it's necessary if it is that serious. Again, this video was released yesterday. It was cut back in May, but if we're sitting on 2 months of Deion working on something, God, I worry what he's going to look like, let alone how he's going to feel. He said last week, he had tweeted last week that he's feeling better than ever. And, he's back to feeling good, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's gone or whatever he's dealing with has subsided. So we'll see what we will see, but I hope that we are wrong. And like I said, I am eating crow tomorrow morning and everything is happy and ready to go.
Well, some other texts we got throughout the show. One said, I would take Kershaw off that list. The other ones are going into our predictions at the AFC and NFC West. The first one says, AFC West, I'm taking Kansas City, Chargers, Denver, Vegas. NFC West, Seahawks, Rams, Niners, Cards. He said, another one says, I'm going with the Chargers as a surprise team to dethrone the Chiefs this season. Harbaugh will get the best Herbert we've seen.
That's what I'm hoping for, right? I mean, a lot of these, don't get me wrong, we agree with your guys' takes. It's just from what I have seen and how I know football to go, it usually doesn't end up that way, unfortunately. So
another one says, I think I'm close with you guys' picks, but I think the Niners win the NFC West and the Chargers take the West.
Really? Chargers over again, I can't see the Chargers making that jump just yet. I really can't. But again, they have been trying to brew this team into the chief killer for the last 4 or 5 years. So maybe this is the year that Harbaugh puts it together and they can finally get it to work. Without the wide receiver help, I'm just finding it very difficult for Justin Herbert to excel when he hasn't had his number one receivers for the last 2-3 years. You don't have Keenan Allen anymore. Mike Williams is one of his favorite guys. I know that in camp right now, you're seeing great things between him and Johnson, which is fantastic to see if you're a Charger fan. But is Johnson good enough to get around the Patrick Surtains, the Trent McDuffies? Nah, I'm going to say no. I'm sorry. I don't think that that's going to work out for you. I think in camp, it's going to look great, especially since the Chargers themselves have no corners. Asante Samuel, gone. So again, you look great against the talent you're going up against. Let's see you against actual teams, though. Actual competition. It's going to be a completely different game.
And this year's Madden 99 club was announced. Lane Johnson, Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase.
Yep, figured.
Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, Josh Allen, and Myles Garrett.
Woo! I get to play as Josh Allen for 99. No, I'm just kidding. I actually never picked the 99s when I played Madden, to be honest with you.
Me neither.
It makes the game a little too easy. I am one of those weirdos that likes to take a rookie and like develop.
Yeah, take usually the worst team and then
try
to build them up.
Or just move them to like Ireland or Mexico.
We've done that.
I love moving my team to Ireland, even though I'm absolutely against moving a team to outside of America.
And Raw tonight.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what the card is, though, or where they're live from, but we're going to get continued build up to these SummerSlam matches. Are they in Detroit? Ooh, great wrestling city. We're going to get something fun tonight. I can feel it now. This has been the early bird special, though. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Sparky, let's get out of here.
And a big shout out to Leanne.